Good evening, friends. The subject of my talk this evening is benefits of rational thinking. It is believed that among all living beings, the human beings have the ability to think rationally sometimes, not always. So I can tell from my own life's own experience how I have been benefited by rational thinking. I grew up in India, and then while growing up I noticed that some people, particularly the ladies, they had the habit of taking showers many times a day, if possible, because they wanted to purify their bodies before entering a temple or a shrine. They take bath, sometimes 2 or 3 times. And because they would think that their bodies were not pure enough. I watched all that, and I wondered why they think that they are so unholy unless they take a bath. Because when they enter a temple or a shrine, inside their bodies there is stool and urine and all that. So perhaps they forget that. Anyway, the idea that I am not pure physically and all, that idea has to be abandoned, because our scriptures, Vedantic scriptures say that whether we know it or not, we are divinity itself. How can there be impurity? Anyway, and also in India, there is the tradition of consulting the Hindu almanac to find auspicious times to go on a trip or to perform some worship of some deity, or even to enter a newly purchased home. Hindu almanac. And these almanacs are governed by the belief that the stars and planets, they have a lot to do with our individual lives. What is auspicious time and inauspicious time? Truly speaking, God is always everywhere. And what about any place where God is not there? No, that's not what Hinduism teaches. See, if God is everywhere, every place is holy enough. And I have to be aware of it. As I grew up in a family which was sort of religious, and my parents observed all these rules, that is, to do certain things in auspicious times, etc., such as to go on a trip, and so on and so forth. But when I became a monk and joined the Ramakrishna Order of monks, Then I thought, what are all these ideas? And I abandoned them all by using some mental force. Mental force is needed. Abandon. And I've been a monk for nearly 65 years. And I don't observe all those things anymore. Every time is auspicious for me. I chant the holy name of God and go. That's what I've done. And under the circumstances, I had to travel just about all over the world so many times. And I didn't consult the almanac or anything to find out what was an auspicious time to go anywhere. In America, I heard, or in the Western world, they think that Friday the 13th is a very inauspicious day. But people in India don't know about these things. So it is just some kind of superstitious belief. We should give them up by using rational thinking. When I was a young man of maybe 15 or so, then one of my teeth molars had to be extracted. After the extraction of the tooth, there was a lot of bleeding. And the dentist most probably didn't know how to stop the bleeding. So then bleeding automatically stopped later on. Then somebody who was a great believer in astrology, he said to my parents, his bleeding was caused because the planet Mars is not pleased with this boy. Planet Mars. They recognize 9 planets. One of them is planet Mars. And that's why he had bleeding. But it can be prevented by a golden ring with a piece of coral in it. And coral will prevent that kind of possibility. It is considered holy. Then I went on using that ring, that golden ring. Eventually, when I joined the Ramakrishna Order as a monk, by that time I had become disillusioned about the efficacy of such rings, etc. So one of my older sisters came to see me, and I said to her, "Will you mind if I give you a gift?" And she said, "No." Then I said, "Please take this ring with you and use it." So I gave away that ring. So that must have been done about 50 years ago, or earlier, much earlier, yes. So these things have to be shaken off by using rational thinking. And belief in certain things such as palmistry, astrology, that is there. When I was young, I was a voracious reader of books, had great appetite for learning things, and at that time I studied palmistry thoroughly. Whatever I would study that thoroughly. And also I studied astrology. Then when I was a young man, many would come to me to have their astrological charts, and they usually have such charts made after they're born by their parents. And so they would bring those charts to me to know about their future. That's how I got to know or got to see astrological charts of many. And I was amazed to discover that what is written there in those astrological charts, most of those things would not happen. Then I started losing faith in astrology. According to the astrological chart of a person, that person was supposed to be very famous and all, but nothing happened in the life of that person. Many such cases were there. Then I understood that this astrology is not an exact science. At that time I was a science student. I studied chemistry, physics and other subjects. Chemistry was my favorite subject. I got my degree in science first. Then out of some whom I got a degree in humanities also, like literature, English, Bengali and all that. Anyway, I don't have to advertise myself, but this I am saying in connection with the topic of my talk. So, palmistry. I read so many books on palmistry. Handbook of Palmistry, Palmistry for All. That book was written by one person named Kiro. That was his nickname, I think. He was an European. And I have checked the palms of several hundred people, actually, I would say. But I came to know that that was not at all an exact science. It is just a guesswork. Sometimes the guesses come true, sometimes in most cases they don't come true. Therefore, to have belief in all these things is a wastage of time and a wastage of mind also. That's why I gave up those beliefs. Palmistry and astrology. And also in the day-to-day world also, you'll see so many things. When I was a young man, I was studying in college at that time. At that time, the word organic became very popular among the businessmen. They would say, this is organic. But we had studied in college that any compound of carbon is organic. Even carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide, they are also organic because there is carbon and oxygen are present in both of them. Calcium carbonate. Yes, there is carbon there. So that is organic. But according to these people, they wanted to sell that things. That's why they say, this is organic, very healthy, organic. And I could see through their schemes. They're using the organic wrongly, word organic wrongly. So they give ads. This is organic, 100% organic. You buy these things and it is good for your health, etc. Of course, these ads are doubtful. advertisements are given by businesses to earn money. Their only interest is to earn money. Sometimes when as long as I have been here in Seattle, I used to sometimes go for a walk in the North Gate shopping mall. There I would see all sorts of advertisements. 50% discount. Discount, they would give it, sell things at a discount of 50%. Is it believable? Not really. They first raised the price by 100% and then gave a discount. But people go and believe in those things. Luckily, I did not. Perhaps my rational thinking ability helped me. When I was in high school, I studied science also at that time, among other subjects. And our science teacher one day pointed to me and tell the other students, among you all, he is the only one who understands science. Mostly because I think I had a rational mind. Something which was not reasonable I could not accept. Anyway, so belief in palmistry, belief in astrology, and all these things. Yes. And there are some people who believe that dogs and cats are just that human beings wearing the costumes of dogs and cats. The dog owners and cat owners think that way. Once, at that time I was a monk in India, in Vilurmat. And we were invited to go to a particular home, invited to have dinner. And I went there as a young monk. And there I saw a dog. And when I was a boy, about 8 or 10 years old, I used to have a dog. And I was very fond of that dog. And after 3 or 4 years, the dog died, and it hurt me so much that I stopped eating food for about a week. Then I decided never again to have a pet. And I have abided by that decision up till now. Yes. And those dog owners, they have a tendency to think that the dogs understand everything. No, they don't understand anything. They don't have human minds. So I was talking about that invitation, where some monks had been invited, and I was one of them. And when I entered that home, I saw a dog there. And I patted that dog a little. And the lady of that home, she said, "This dog is very intelligent, sir, very intelligent. This dog can understand everything, all human language." But I had no dog. That dog did not understand human language much at all. So I said, "Is it true?" She said, "Yes, yes." Then I said, "What's the name of your dog?" And the lady told me what the name was. Australia said Blackie or something. Then I called the dog by the word Jackie. Jackie, and Jackie wagged its tail. I said, "See, your dog even doesn't know its own name." The lady was very embarrassed. She didn't like my comment. Yes. We have such beliefs, some of us, that dogs and cats can understand human language. No, no, no. They only understand food that we give them. There was a gentleman who was a doctor he was a devotee of the Ramakrishna Order. He lived near the border of Tibet and India, that was in Assam, Upper Assam. And during the winter, those many Tibetans would come down to the plains of India, and they would sell wool and other stuff. And this doctor was there. He was not married or anything. So, and many of those Tibetans would suffer from malaria, because malaria at that time was rampant. And so he said to them, if you have any fever or something, come to me, I will treat you. And he would give them medicines for malaria and they would get cured. So one of those Tibetans, he became very grateful to him, and before, when it was time for him to go back to Tibet, he came to that doctor and said, "Doctor, you benefited much. Yes, I had a fever and he cured me, and since then I have not had any more fever and all this. I am so thankful to you. So out of gratitude, I would like to give you a gift." Then the gift of what? Gift of a Khampa dog. Khampa dogs are big dogs, you see, and they are used for hunting also if needed. And the doctor said to that person, "It's a fully grown dog. It will, what shall I do with this? It cannot be my pet anymore." And then that Tibetan said, "No, no, no. You have the dog, and then the first few days, whatever food you will give to the dog, you chew a portion of that and let your saliva be there, and then give that food to the dog. And then the dog will become your pet." And that's what actually happened. Got the smell of the saliva and the food and all. So anyway, to cut the long story short, the dog helped this doctor once to get rid of a thief who had entered his home when he was not there. And when he came home, he saw that a man was lying on the floor, and that Khampa dog was standing near that man. The man was scared. He said, "Please save me from this dog." Then the doctor, of course, allowed that person to get up and told him, "Why do you steal?" Then he said that he was poor, that's why he steal. The doctor provided him with a job somewhere, and then that man gave up stealing. That is the story. So, we should use our sense of reason, rational thinking. When I was in India, I was a young Swami. Then two other elderly Swamis wanted to go to South India on pilgrimage. And they asked me to go with them. They paid my fare and everything. So I went. We all went to the southernmost tip of India. That place is called Cape Comorin. And there is ocean there. The Arabian Sea, in the Indian Ocean, and Bay of Bengal, they all meet there. So that's why that is considered very holy. So we are told that if you take a dip here, you will never be born again. You will be liberated. So we all took a dip. After that, I didn't want to have a dip anywhere else. But there are in many other places in India, and there are some big rivers, etc., where some people claim that if you take a dip in that river, then you will not be born again, you will be liberated spiritually. But if that dip which I took there in Cape Kumarin. If that doesn't help, then what is the proof that others will help? So that's why I would never go for any other dips. And in spiritual life also, we have to use our sense of reason. In order to experience our inherent divinity, of which we are not aware, but we can be aware of that and experience it, there are some paths prescribed, spiritual paths prescribed. And one of them is called the path of reasoning, or jnana yoga. Yoga means communion with reality, communion with divinity. It can be done through jnana. Jnana means reasoning. And there is also a path of devotion called bhakti yoga. Then there is another path which is based on learning how to concentrate and control your mind. That is called Raja Yoga. And there is another path by which we should learn how to work selflessly and then experience divinity. That is called Karma Yoga, like that. I was talking about, I don't know whether I talk about Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga is a method, you see, that's by which a person can make his body perfect, no illness will be there. So when I was a young man, I practiced those yogasanas. There is a book by one Swami Shivananda. He lived in the holy Kamakhya hill in eastern India, near Guwahati. And at that time for a while I worked for the government as a government auditor. So at that time I used to practice these asanas, because the Shivananda had written a book named, in Bengali, Yogasana Rogarogya. That means how to cure illnesses with the help of with the yoga postures. So that book gave many instances of which kind of posture is good for what and all. And I religiously followed those things and I practiced that. At that time I was young and my body was pliable. I could bend it any manner I would want. So, and then as a government auditor I had to visit that town called Guwahati. And near that was that famous Kamakhya hill. And I had read that book of Shivananda, who wrote that book about how to cure illnesses with the help of yogi postures. So I thought, why not I go and see him? So I went there and saw him. He was most probably at that time in his 50s or I don't know, 40s. And I was in my 20s. And there I saw him living with an assistant in a particular hut. And he didn't look very healthy to me. And he had written that book. And he used to do what is called neti and dhoti. That means he would use something like an enema every day. And also he would drink a lot of water and vomit out that water from the stomach. So these two, these are called neti and dhoti. So he used to do that. But his health didn't seem to be good at all. And so anyway, then he didn't live long. I think before he was 50, he died. And this yogasanas, they didn't harm me, but one person I know was harmed by yogasana. He was a monk in our order. His name was Divyanshu Maharaj. He was a little older than me, older than I. And then he used to complain about some headache, and medicines were given but they would not cure him. Then the authorities thought that he should be asked to go home because only monks he was a novitiate monk. Monks who have good health, they are allowed to be in the order at that age. But anyway, but he went to see a doctor. And the doctor luckily was a person who had practiced these yogasanas. And he said, "Oh, you have this pain. Oh." And he said, "I also had a similar pain. It is because, do you practice Shirshasana, headstand? That is putting the head down and legs up, you see. That is an asana. The body has to be made vertical. And all the weight of the body actually rests on the head. And so I practiced that, and that's how I damaged one of my vertebrae. So then he said, I know how to cure it. So then the doctor said, give up practicing those asanas. And he gave him some medicine, and he used to apply that on the neck, back side of his neck, on that. And he had to always do that. His name was Divyanshu Maharaj. Eventually he had to take charge of our center in Japan. He was a fine monk. In spirituality he was quite developed. But that problem he had was always there. Every day he had to massage the back of his neck with a particular pain relieving oil. And before he was even 60, I think, he had to retire. And then he went to Benares. And there, after 1 or 2 years, he passed away. He was a good friend of mine, Divyanshu Maharaj. So he was a victim of yogasanas. Something which is good can be bad also for some people. Yes. And I was talking of jnana yoga, that where rational thinking is considered a method. And in rational thinking you ask questions and you get the right answers. That's how it is. Then the question, if that question is raised, who am I? Then who am I? The owner and the object owned cannot be the same. So if I own a car, as the owner I have to be different from it. In the same way, my body is made of bones and muscles and all that. Am I that body? No, I am the owner, so I have to be different from it. In the same way, am I my senses? No, I cannot be. Or my motor organs? No. Because I own them all. As the owner, I have to be different. What about my mind? Yes, my mind. As I am the owner of my mind, I cannot be my mind. But unfortunately, the sense of my individual existence is located in a thought of my conscious mind. That is the ego. Ego, I. Yes. In order to know our divinity, we have to go transcend that ego and the mind also. This is in short the sum and substance of that jnana yoga. By thinking, eventually a person gets out of it. So I think I should say good night to you.